Welcome back. I'm Erin. This is Bud.
Hi.
And we are the Makeup Couple. And today is a special new kind of video. Today we'll be doing a how-to. Are you excited?
I'm very.
So for today's how-to, we're going to do some simple face paints that anyone can do, especially if they have some time on their hands.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Alright, so to begin with this sort of a makeup, you need any sort of water-based face paint makeup, which you can actually get at your local craft store. I know Michael's has a brand called Snazzaroo that's really great. You can pick up whatever colors you want. They have little palettes, pretty cheap. Anyone can do it. Super easy. They're all hypoallergenic, so they're safe for your kids' faces. And other than that, it's just a matter of jumping in and putting it on there.
Let's do it. Let's jump.
Alright, so for our first design, we're going to be doing a little thing that I like to call the Dino Eye. For a while, I was doing Dinosaur face paint shows, and all I had to do all day for like 3 days in a row, every weekend, was dinosaur designs. But who doesn't love dinosaurs? Do you love dinosaurs?
Love dinosaurs.
Perfect. So for this one, you got to start, of course, with some green, historically, or you can get crazy. Blue, orange, your kid's favorite, whatever you want to do.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Reptiles.
What's your favorite color?
Red.
Red. You want a red dino eye?
Yeah. Well, no, you were going to do green. We can
Okay.
do green. Let's do green.
All right.
Traditional.
Tradition.
Yeah.
You can also, if you want to get fancy, there's some websites out there that sell other higher grade face paint makeup. My favorites are Chameleon, and Silly Farm sells a brand called Fab. Those are my two favorite cakey makeups. Cake makeup. Chameleon.
Why is it called cake?
It is a cake because it's a cake of makeup versus like airbrush being in a little bottle that you shake up.
Makes sense.
Yeah. So it's a lot like watercolor or, you know, painting from any sort of a pan like that. It'll get crazy, but we're keeping it simple today. We'll get crazy next time. Oh, yeah. That's good.
Oh, wow. You're going dark green.
You like that?
Is that a forest green?
This is emerald green.
Oh, well.
So, but we'll brighten it up. Usually, I prefer to start with a mid-tone.
That's some cold water.
You should probably warn people. I'm gonna have you turn a little bit more that way.
Yeah, just look here.
Perfect. And then, so we're sweeping around the eye, especially for your little kids. You want to kind of avoid actually going on to their eyelid because they hate the feeling of it, which I get as a child. So I would often ask, you know, if they were okay with it before I went ahead and went on their eyelid. So, Bud, are you okay with me going on your eyelid?
I am.
Yay! Close your eyes for me. So even with this, I still stay pretty gentle, and I don't make sure that there's not too much water on the brush because otherwise it's going to be dripping everywhere. And that's how you really get a good pigmented loading of your brush, by making sure you have just enough to activate, but not so much that you're drowning your cake makeup. Ooh yeah. This is a good look.
Feels good.
There were many times where the parents at the dino shows, I would be in this part of it, and they'd be like, what is that? I'd be like, look, I know it's like a blob, but it will be something awesome.
It's an avocado.
Yeah.
I know that water base takes a little bit of time. Is it okay to do this?
It is,
You
yes.
Just let it go. Here, I'll help you out.
Thank you. On hot summer days, I would often bring like a light fan with me. You can also bring some powder makeups if you would want to do some stuff over top of that. So now I'm going to go in with a lighter green and add some highlight sections. And this really starts to give it a 3D kind of a look, which I think is super fun. And the way that I pick where to highlight is I do upper edges. I do anything that's kind of protruding, so up on the nose here we would have a little nose bridge area. Down on this cheekbone would generally have a little bit of highlight. Don't worry if it's a little bit streaky, because you can always blend it down. Have you ever had your face just like painted? Like not for a costume?
Probably at a convention.
Yeah.
But that was still kind of either haunted house related or you know, costume related kind of sort of.
What about when you were a kid?
You know, I didn't get into makeup until we started doing yard haunting for Halloween. And that was even still like a struggle. So no, like makeup was definitely once I started getting into the haunted house industry and the movie industry. So
nice.
Yeah.
So exciting.
I wish I would have started early though.
Yeah.
I'd be so far ahead of the game, but it's all right. Start young.
Start young. Oh yeah. One highlight isn't enough for me, so I like to do two. And I kind of like to start wider swatches and get slightly tighter, just to give it a little bit more definition.
So how are you able to put those colors over top of the darker colors?
So what's nice about a lot of face paint is it's kind of like a mix between watercolor and acrylic, almost. It's not either of those things, but that's kind of how it acts. So once it's a little bit dry, you can go over top of it and lighten things up, especially if they're in the same family. So you couldn't, it's hard to put like really light yellow on top of like a purple color, but if you're going from dark green to light green, or even if you're doing dark green to then yellow on top of that, then it works a little bit better. And the same with darker colors, you can build it down. You just have to keep your color wheel in mind, which we will when we add the dots. Although sometimes with those I make opposite colors. It'll be great, you're gonna love it.
I trust you.
Yeah, so here we have our highlights. Pretty cool, turn your head all the way that way. And you're still like, what the heck is that, Aaron? What is happening?
And it looks kind of like a Pokemon or
Yeah.
something going on there. You're like two little ears and like little feeties, so I'm excited.
Yeah, it's very exciting. So these guys are gonna be, I like to do little like teethies or horns that come out of the dino eye. I feel like that's what makes it dinosaur-y. So those are kind of like where the horns go into, little raised parts.
Is this a real dinosaur you're basing it off of, or like imaginary face paint dinosaur?
This is an imaginary face paint dinosaur.
So it's an Aranosaurus?
It is! The idea of it is based on real dinosaurs, but then you gotta get creative, because what's life without being creative?
Meat eater?
Probably, yeah. I feel like they're usually the the horny ones. Alright, so now we're gonna go in and add some shadows. And I know that you're probably like, Aaron, you said this was gonna be simple. This is pretty simple, if you have some time. If you're rushing around, there are some one-stroke cakes that you can do where you can get a whole like gradient of color in just one stroke of the brush, and those help to speed it up a lot. Those are a more specialty thing, and I can show you that in a little bit when we get to our next one. So again, we're loading up the brush. The brush that I'm using right now mainly is a Filbert brush. He's just a little roundish guy.
It sounds like a filbert.
The technical.
Little round filbert.
Yeah. You can use, so this guy is good for, you know, kind of basing out but still giving it shape. A square brush is good to use. You can use brushes just from a craft store, as long as you keep them only for face paint. You don't want to mix and match if you're using like acrylic paint or anything else. So you want to get a special set of brushes. Okay. Close your eyes again, and then turn your face a little bit towards me, a little bit more. Perfect. So now we're going to add an angry eyebrow, because I feel like most dinosaurs, especially the carnivores, were always angry. Plus, generally little boys and even a decent amount of little girls love being vicious dinosaurs. That was exciting. So I do a kind of an S curve, and this is giving us a bit of an eyebrow situation. So we're going kind of around, we're leaving out the top part of his eyebrow and cutting through the middle of it to make it look more diagonal and evil. Not that dinosaurs are evil. I think they have that, you know, bad stick. And again, make sure your brush isn't too wet if you're going over the eyelid. And then we'll take our black, and on the opposite side of wherever you put your highlights, you're going to add a little bit of darkness. And so you notice that I'm not re-wetting the brush. I like to do a lot of like semi-dry brushing, which is where you only have like the barest amount of water on, and it helps you kind of blend in a way that makes it look a little bit more like airbrushing. You don't have to. You could even just stick with like hard lines and it would still give you a really cool look. So I've scrubbed off a bunch more of the pigment and I'm just going to sort of blend and dry brush what we have down already. So this kind of just gives it a softer feel, and I think it makes it look just a little bit more interesting. Giving it some wrinkles. Ooh, yeah. Shadows.
If you've never worn this stuff before too, water-based is just awesome because it's really light and movable, unlike some grease bases and whatnot, so this is always really nice to put on your face.
Yeah. This can be rubbed off, but only if you like scrub at it or if they're sweating. So that's the other awesome part about the water base. Alright, so now we're going to add our teethies. So I like to use a brush that's already kind of teardrop shape, or like a round, longer brush, because it just makes it easy. So you can just pull and press to get the shapes right. And if your child doesn't have stubble, it makes it easier.
It's a very young, furry child. So what's the deal? I see you using like the pinky out here. What's going on with that?
That's just, so, it's because I'm fancy. No, so in order to balance your hand, you can always rest your pinky lightly as long as you're not stabbing people in the eyeballs. I like to give our little horns a bit of a curve to them, just because it makes them more interesting. You don't want, no horns are just straight up and down generally. And then sometimes, even if I didn't make the little landing spots for them, I'll still give maybe a couple extra, just because it looks neat. So this is our base makeup. I'm going to add just a little bit of color to our white horny areas, and then we're going to actually outline everything and then give them spots. And those are the final details. That's what makes the face paint really come to life. So if you're like at this point following along and it doesn't look exactly how you think it should look, just wait a minute. So to keep things interesting, I'm going to add a little bit of yellow to our teethies. And it just makes it more visually interesting. And these don't have to be any real specific way necessarily. You can just plop them on. If you want to get fancy, there is a way to add highlights and shadows and things like that to each tooth as well. But if you're going for something quick, this will do. What color spots do you want?
Oh, I get to choose?
Yeah!
What would you recommend?
I would say maybe like orange spots could be cool.
I think so.
Or yellow.
Let's do orange since you have yellow on the tip.
Okay.
What's the weirdest request you've had for a colored dinosaur?
I've done rainbow dinosaurs. I've done camo dinosaurs, which is difficult. You name it, I've probably made a dinosaur in it. Now for this part, for your spots, you want your brush to be well loaded, and you want it a little bit liquidier than you had for your base things, so that you can easily get just a nice dot pattern without having to work too hard. Let the brush do the work whenever possible. So my general go-to is little spots of 3 spots, and then the occasional 1 or 2 outside of that. And if you vary the size and shape a little bit, it makes it look just more interesting. So now, for the fun part! I mean, it's all been fun. This part is where it really all comes together. And then you're just going around the outside edge, kind of like a cartoon. And you don't have to do this if you like the way it looks without it. Or I've had some kids where they, the parents are like, I know they're going to rub their face immediately, but they really wanted it. Sometimes I would just leave the black off, so that if they did rub their face, they didn't look all super crazy. Just mildly crazy.
I will say this is my least favorite part as an artist, because you do have to outline it.
Yeah.
It does take a little bit of skill.
Yeah, it does, like, you need a steady hand. That's where the pinky really comes into play and really helps. I find it's always easier to kind of pull towards me as much as possible versus, like, trying to pull it away from me. It's all about control. Sometimes I like to add in a little bit of extra weird, interesting dinosaur-y shapes to the edges just because. Seems kind of fun. And then if I have any spots that need to be defined more, or if I want a couple like little detail wrinkle lines, then I'll go in with the liney brush. And these don't, especially when you're doing like wrinkly sort of things, they don't have to be perfect. They're actually probably better if they're a little bit wobbly and a little bit weird anyway. So here we have our outlined dino face. I'm going to do a couple little highlights because I love highlights and I can't help myself. And I'm going to scrub in the black a little bit closer to his eye. You don't have to, but I think it makes it look really good. You want to be really careful with this part. So this again, I just have a little bit of water on there. And I'm just scrubbing it up a little bit closer. Don't get it past the water line. Don't get it into their eyes. Only do it if you feel very confident and your kids are awesome. And last but not least, a few highlights because everything's better with highlights. I think the most fun thing about face paints too is like, especially when you add these highlights, if you take a picture with the flash on, they look fantastic. And I'm just kind of picking areas that are either edges close to darkness or edges towards the top or the bottom. Sometimes just run wherever I want. It's art! So there you have a sweet, sweet dinosaur eye with horns and wrinkles and a ferocious stare. How do you feel?
Very dinoed.
Perfect!